What's going on, folks? Your boy again, Dr. Sean Thomas, back in the building. Be More Today's show. We are back in the building. And folks, I missed you. I missed you every single week. I'm away from you, but we're back in the building now with the Be More Today show. Again, highlighting so many people doing extraordinary things. And if you don't know, now you know. The Be More Today show is heard in over 63 countries, over 26,000 downloads. We have been cruising and growing. Just finished our Project 40 More journey, and it was great. It's going through and showing people how they too can be more in all that they do. So if you were a part of that in any way, whether you did the workouts, the burpees, the push-ups, the plank jacks, the mountain climbers, all that stuff, or you just ran, or you just watched us do those things for the last 40 days, I salute you anyway in advance. And I thank you for following us on our Strava page, on our BeMoreToday.com page. You have been great. My quote for today is simple as always. Perfection isn't the goal. Consistency is. Perfection isn't the goal. Consistency is. We've been going through a lot of changes this year. And now that we're entering the last quarter of 2022, it's imperative that we remember what we said we wanted to do. A lot of you had goals, you had things you wanted to do, you had fitness goals, professional goals, whatever the case may be. And maybe you Be More Today or Project 40 or Project 40 More as that tool to get these things done. Whatever the case may be, now you're at a point where you can finish the year off strong. And we're hoping that as we go through this last quarter, you can remember that it's not about being perfect. You're gonna have days where you don't do the best, where you kind of fall short, where you have some mishaps, where you kind of are lazy, you don't really feel like doing it. Motivation is just not there. But you get back up, you try again, you stay consistent, and you continue to remind yourself why you want to do this in the first place. And that's our goal, to remind you what's going on and to stay focused and fit during this time. And my guest on today's show is the embodiment of that. She's someone who I've known for a very long time. We went to high school together, and I've seen her on social media doing amazing things in the world of yoga. And we've had some people on the show, but not a yoga instructor as of yet. And her name is LeShone Jai HoSang Navies. And she's a certified special educator and Kundalini Yoga instructor. And the last 2 decades have been crazy for her because she's had so much experience in both fields. In July 2022, she shared the intersection of her two passions at the International Association of Special Education Conference in Vietnam, where she facilitated a presentation on wellness recipes for students with special needs, their educators, and their families. LeShone Jai is a first-generation Jamaican-American woman from the Bronx, BX in the house, baby, who promotes courage and grace through education and yoga. LeShone Jai has worked in public and private and charter schools in the Washington, D.C. area as a K-12 teacher and administrator. She currently works as a special education coordinator in a public high school in Southern Maryland. LeShone Jai has practiced yoga for over 20 years and has been a certified Kundalini instructor since 2007. She has taught yoga to babies, youth, and adults in birth centers, schools, studios, and gyms. She currently teaches a weekly online Kundalini yoga class offered through Lighthouse Yoga Center in Washington, D.C. The Jai Yoga #Sunday Sesh at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with students from all around the world. She encourages everyone and anyone to join her global yoga fam for a physically invigorating and mentally stimulating Jai yoga experience. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pets included, please welcome to the stage my girl, my friend, forever true to golden blue, my girl, LeShone Jai HoSang Navies. LeShone, what is going on?
Thank you. What a great intro. And kudos to you on expanding this Be More Today show and concept to over 60 countries. That's awesome. I am doing well. I feel very steady and blessed and just maintaining my joy. So how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm happy that you're on the show with me today. You know, we went to high school together, and it's just fun seeing so many of my Choate fam doing great things. I think we went to the best school in the country. I always say that, and I mean that. And I do believe that seeing people like us do things around the world, taking over things, leading out in different varieties of ways, just makes me really excited. And it lets me know that we were a part of, for a time, a part of a group that is really changing the world. And we're all doing it in various ways. So I'm proud of you. And I'm happy to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you. I'm proud of you too. I see you doing big things, and making moves in your corner of Brooklyn and throughout the world. So, as we said, over 60 countries. So kudos right back at you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Listen, we got lots of stuff to talk about. And the first thing is going to be yoga because I am not the most flexible person in the world. And I know I'm a physical therapist and I do all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. Mobility is something that I need to continue to work on. And I do my own thing, but yoga for many people becomes a safe place for meditation, but also for movement. So, as the first yoga instructor on this show, I'm curious how you got involved in yoga in the first place.
So I got involved in yoga while I was in college. So after Choate, I went to Georgetown University and I didn't like it. And I wanted to leave. I actually wanted to transfer. And I was like, yeah, mom, this is not cutting it. I remember calling my mom and she was like, okay, so what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to transfer, and started looking into schools immediately. And she's like, okay. And then say you get there and you don't like that school, then what? Like, are you going to keep transferring? And I was like, good point. And it made me just kind of pause and reflect on, well, I could transfer and I could very well find the same situation somewhere else, or I could stay and figure it out and make it work. And I did the latter. So I ended up taking a yoga class at Georgetown University. They would have classes in the gym. There was a lady who was from Maryland, and she would come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays and teach yoga like in the gym on campus. So I signed up for a class, and really it was good to stretch. It felt good to stretch. And then I would fall asleep. Like literally, she would be like, we're done. Like, you have to wake up. You have to get out. I would be like, what? Like, I would be knocked out. It was so peaceful, so restorative. And it became a safe place for me to just go and like work out whatever stress I had, like physically out of my body. And I just kept going to the class. So I started there and it changed my life. Like you can see 20 plus years later, I'm still doing yoga. But it really taught me to, sometimes you have to find the joy where you are, find the peace where you are, and figure it out. And there are times where you need to jump ship and leave. I'm not saying you always should stick out something that's difficult, but in this case, it taught me that I can find my wedge and like expand the space here where I am. So I started in college and just kept up with it. Started taking all sorts of yoga classes, hatha and power yoga and vinyasa and the Bikram yoga and the heat, and took my first Kundalini yoga class in 2007, and it changed my life. So, yeah.
Wow. So what makes Kundalini different than the other ones you just mentioned just now? Because I've done
Yeah.
power, I've done hot yoga. I did hot yoga in Costa Rica actually, and I was hot.
Ooh.
We were on a rooftop, but I was hot and I loved it, but I was just like, okay, I don't know if I could do this every
Yeah.
single week. So what makes the yoga that you've specialized in different from all those other didactics?
Yes, and there are all kinds of yoga. There's those that I mentioned and more. And they're all special, unique. They have their purpose and their place. Kundalini yoga is near and dear to my heart. It's known as the yoga of awareness. And so we bring this awareness by the asanas, the yoga postures that we do. So the physical stretching, we bring the awareness through our prana, through the breath, right? Our breath is our life force. We're breathing now without even knowing it. But sometimes it's important to take time and breathe purposefully, intentionally. So we practice through yoga, we practice through the breathing, and then there's always meditation as a part of a Kundalini yoga class. And what might appeal to you is that there's always chanting or singing. So we start the class with a chant, we tune out with a chant, and I know we used to sing back in high school. that part just really, it just brought it all together. I feel like it brings in modalities that I love. I love to move my body. I love to breathe. It's important to sit down and just meditate and be still sometimes. And I love singing. So it was like, oh my gosh, Kundalini just kind of checked a lot of the boxes. And it's just such a transformative experience. My first class, I cried. I was like, what is this? Like, I've been doing yoga at that point for I don't know how many years. And something was just different in the class. Like, I feel like it just tapped into something different, and it just kind of opened me up in a different way. So I've been certified in Kundalini since 2007 and practicing and teaching it since then. And it's been beautiful. It's been a beautiful journey to deepen my practice and to share it with others.
That's incredible. I've done yoga, and I could probably count on my hand the number of times I've done yoga by myself. Although my daughter does do uh, cosmic yoga, which she does on YouTube, and she loves that. But for me, yoga has, like you said, that sensation of I'm so relaxed, I almost want to fall asleep. And that's where I started. And that's kind of where I am now. But for you to talk about the experience where there's an emotional connection now where you're almost brought to tears, you were brought to tears. Yeah, that's a bigger level of understanding when it comes to now the connection of body, spirit, mind, soul, those kind of things. So what are some of the other benefits you think, not just the emotional components to and the physical, but what other things do you think people and you yourself have experienced and seen as benefits to people doing yoga on a regular, consistent basis?
Absolutely. So there's definitely the physical, less stress, more mobility, flexibility, the emotional piece, just feeling better. But I think the emotional piece also extends out into the community, because it really is a practice done with others. Like, even if you're doing yoga by yourself on your mat in your house, you're connecting to the teachers before you, the teachers to come, the students who are practicing with you. If you really take a moment to kind of tune into the energy, like where energy feels, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. You tune into the energy of other people. Sometimes it's good to just sit and listen and kind of tune into the messages and the blessings and maybe the warnings that are coming your way. Like, really listen. You kind of tune into the cosmos. So it makes it a community experience. And it's been interesting teaching on Zoom, because most of my experience was teaching in person, like, people breathing feet away from you. So teaching on Zoom, Lighthouse Yoga reached out to me and were like, oh, will you teach this class on Zoom? And I was like, I don't know if this will translate. Like, I really like teaching in person. I really like seeing the faces of my student. And you can turn your camera off in the class, but I like to see in person, like, okay, that hurts. Let me offer some modifications. Or you're breezing through this. Let me give you some extensions. And you don't always see that in yoga and like on Zoom. It also was important or interesting teaching on Zoom, because I was like, I don't know how the class is gonna really gel. Like, after a yoga class, I feel like there's such a community experience. Like, we all feel like we've shared this moment, like we've gone through it, like, woo, in Kundalini Yoga, we'll say, Waheguru, like, wow, like the ecstasy of moving from darkness to light, like just sharing this experience. And I don't know if that'll translate on Zoom, but it does. Like, it's so interesting. And I have students all over the world. We'll do a class together, and like, I'm feeling the love, they're feeling the love, we're sweating, like we've all like moved something through. We've moved through something, we've moved it out, like, and so in my class, we really talk about practicing life on the mat, and so it's not about doing it perfectly. Like, your quote in the beginning is so timely, because it's not about perfection, it's about practice, it's about consistency. And it's not every day I'm like, doing a split or a headstand. Like, it's not even about that. It's where am I today? Bringing that awareness for today. Like, how does my body feel? Maybe you slept wrong, and it's like, okay, the stretch I did yesterday, I can't do today. But where am I today? How can I listen to my body and push through this, or stretch in a different way, and sharing that experience with others? So it really does bring in the community feel, which I love. It brings in like a social justice piece. I really like doing yoga with all types of people, not just the people who can afford it or who can access it, but all types of people. I teach yoga even in my school that I work in. Because it's important for the youth to see it. It's important for them to have it in their day and not just like after school. If you can stay and if you have a ride to get home, like come to yoga on a Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Like we're going to breathe and stretch together. So I like that aspect of it too, like the physical piece, the emotional piece, and really the community piece.
Yeah, I'm hyped right now. I want to yoga right now, actually. I want to go somewhere and take your class and hop into this thing. I do a class on Mondays, also on Zoom, and I don't have that feeling. I mean, I'm doing stuff, they're following me, we get done with it and it's over. But the connection you're talking about that you've just shared, uh, that's boggling to me. That's mind-boggling to me because it's very hard, I think, to have a connection with someone who's not in the room. As someone who does physical therapy every day, for me, that connection is literally my hands on someone doing certain things, and there's a connection there. There's a moment where we're connecting, we're sharing information, etc. And even doing virtual workouts, whatever else, there's a connection there, but it doesn't seem like it's the same as what you're sharing right now on your videos and on your Zoom calls. Especially because you're connecting with people around the world. It seems like that connection is just deeper. And that's exciting to me because it lets me know, like you said, one, the consistency piece is one thing, right? Whether you do it well or not, that one day you'll get it, keep pushing, keep striving, etc. But also that the connection that you're talking about now with mind, body, spirit, soul, right, together with yoga, it can transcend through virtual, right? It's something that even though we're in different places, if the feeling is there and the love is there, whether you're doing it wherever you are in Beijing or someone in New York, wherever the case may be, it's happening on both places, and both people feel that same thing. You don't have to actually be in the room to get that thing done. And that's incredible to me because it lets me know that at least this form of yoga and probably others, that connection that people are experiencing is a real thing. And I think people who have not done yoga before or are trying to get into yoga should be excited about that. That the fact that they can actually see that happening on a virtual thing. Imagine having that happen in person, as it could be even a bigger experience. So that's amazing to me, LeShone. And I don't know what the the thoughts that you have in terms of yoga for everyone, but I know that there are certain people who say, "Oh, it's not for everyone. Certain people shouldn't be able to do it, or certain people should not do it." What are your thoughts on? Look, you've already experienced this, and you've done this so many times and so many people. Do you think yoga is for everyone, and can everyone have or be privy to the experience that you're sharing?
Absolutely. I think the difference is between like yoga and a regular workout. So I do other workouts too. I love dance workouts. I do weights, cardio, I walk. I like to stay fit. I like to be physical. But I think the difference with yoga is the devotion that you bring to it. Somebody is coming to a yoga class, not just for the physical benefits, but also for some mental well-being, a spiritual practice. And so when you come with that mindset, you're bringing your devotion to the practice, and it's more than just a sun salutation. You might do a forward fold or a lunge or a stretch in a Zumba class, which is fun, and I love to dance. But when you're coming and bringing your soul to it, your spirit to it, I think that's what contributes to this cosmic experience, to this energetic experience. You really are connecting through the ethers, because people are bringing so the word yoga is to yoke, right? It's about that yoking of the mind and the body and the spirit. It's about yoking yourself to this present moment. Like we're talking, we're breathing, we're listening right now. And so really bringing that yoke, that union to the moment. Like, so in the class, I often, tune people back into their senses, like check your five senses. What are you seeing and hearing and feeling right now? And really it's just a way to kind of tune into the present, right? Because the experience is beyond the five senses. It's a multi-sensory approach. Like you're really tuning into the soul and the souls of others before us right now, souls to come, and taking a moment to really be aware and listen to that, listen to those messages coming forth. So I think anybody can do it because anybody can bring who they are to the practice. You don't have to be the most bendy. You don't have to be, the one who's like powering through or sweating the most. Like wherever you are, you can have a yoga experience if you bring yourself to the moment, bring your devotion to the practice.
That's powerful. And now you've managed to merge, right? Your love, your passion for yoga with your love for working with special education and people in that realm. We talked about health and wellness. And I know this summer you facilitated a presentation on wellness recipes for students with special needs. We have a number of people who listen to our show who are in that category. And I was curious if you wouldn't mind just sharing some of the tips that you share with people at that presentation, or anything that would be in line with healthy living, healthy lifestyles, and why yoga and this special education component means so much to you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the presentation I gave this summer, phenomenal experience at the International Association of Special Education Conference, was about wellness recipes. So it wasn't just yoga for students with special needs, their families, their teachers. It really was about personalized wellness recipes that each individual will develop, or you can help someone identify and practice for your own self-managed healing. So it's not like a list of like, everybody, you have to do yoga and take bubble baths and, get a manicure and pedicure. Although those are great and you can do them, self-care looks different for everybody. But one of the takeaways really was self-care is community care. Like we take care of each other by taking care of ourselves and each other. So I want to take care of myself, so I have a full cup to pour from, right? You're taking care of yourself and you're teaching in many ways, online, in person, you have your podcast. And so everybody's taking care of themselves so that they can take care of each other. Self-care is community care. They're intertwined, like it's one and the same. The community is as well as its members. And so for this presentation, it wasn't a prescriptive list of like, these are things that you must do. It's more about, again, bringing that awareness back and seeing what works for you, what feels good for you. And the whole point is what revitalizes you, what nourishes you, what brings you joy. I remember actually back at Georgetown, so the first year was rough. I'm not even gonna lie. The first year, but literally I was like, I need to find things that bring me joy. And I'm a list maker. So I wrote down a list and yoga was on the list. And I was like, I love to dance, I love to cook. I love to be with people, like socialize, connect with people. And so for the presentation, I kind of brought it back to that, like come back to yourself and really tune into what brings you joy, and come back to those things. There are things that we're doing that we know we like to do that bring us joy. Great, continue those things. There are things that you're doing that you're like, I know this feels so good. Like when I was working out, it felt good. When I was, I had my weekly call with my best friends, that felt good. I like to cook dinner. I'm not cooking dinner as much. Then you have to recommit to those things. But again, these are practices or wellness recipes that are for you. So really being with yourself, sitting with yourself and thinking like, what brings me joy? What revitalizes me and like just fills me up? Recommit to those practices. Again, back to your quote, it's not about perfection. Come back to being consistent with those things. There are things, practices that we know do not work well for us, right? And most people, if you're like smoking too much, drinking too much, not sleeping enough, like there are practices that we need to stop. So literally, I wrote down a list of wellness recipes for myself. And this is what inspired the talk, the presentation that I gave, because I was like, I need to be sleeping better. I need to be laughing more. Like some of them were really specific. I need to drink more water. And some of them were kind of open-ended, like, I want to be more joyful throughout the day. Well, it looks different day to day. You can't go to a comedy show every day. You can't make somebody tell you a joke every day, but you can find ways to incorporate more joy into your life. You can find ways that that just help you feel better. And so you can do that on an individual level. The presentation started off with what am I doing for myself? And then it focused on the students. So if you're working with students with special needs and they're telling you like, I need more activity time, that's them telling you what they need. How can you factor in a movement break? How can you factor in more leisure time, more recreation time? And it can be in school, it can be through the IEP, it can be at home. And so I have a sister. My younger sister has special needs. She has Down syndrome, and she lives at home with my mom. And my mom does an excellent job to factor in her wellness recipes. My sister loves to sing and dance. And so she goes to an adult day program. And when she comes home, shower, dinner, da 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 da. And then my mom is like, all right, you have time to yourself before you have to go to bed. And just lets her, sing. She has one of those karaoke microphones. She'll be singing. I'll call my mom and she's like singing in the background. She'll have the radio on. But we know that she's feeling good when she's singing and dancing. And we can tell when she's sick because she's in the bed. And it's like, something is up. But just making space for people to be joyful and to practice things that feel good for them during the school day, even at home. I know a lot of times parents of students with special needs or children with special needs, you want to set a routine because it helps the student. That structure helps the students. They feel safe when they know what's coming next. And in that structure, you can build in things that they enjoy, wellness routines that work for everybody, the family and the child. And so talk to them if they're of that age, or just observe your child and say, okay, well, they really like doing this activity, or they really don't like this time. Let me restructure this day and build that into your time so that they have moments for joy. Like, we all need more joy and more ease. Like, it just helps everybody. And then the last part was doing that for educators. So how can we spread that into the community, not only for the teachers who work with them, but the counselors, the vice principals, the special education coordinators like myself. Like, everybody's taking care of themselves, and we can also take care of each other by saying, wow, you look stressed. How can I help you out with this? Or do you want to go for a lunchtime walk? Or can I help you with this IEP goal? Do you want to problem solve it or troubleshoot it together? So just taking care of each other. And it really is an individual journey. It's really an individual practice to really sit with yourself and come up with your own things. There's no prescriptive list. What I do for me may or may not work for somebody else. So it's just a matter of being aware, getting to know yourself, and putting it in practice. You have to do these things because they feel good. Like, who doesn't want to feel good?
Yeah, those are all practical tips, and I appreciate you sharing those things. And that's real talk. I mean, we just want to be better. We want to be better people. We want to live better lives. And like you said, everything in moderation, but everything with consistency. And that's the hard part. But like you said, all those tips are so valid, and it can really change our life for the better. So I appreciate you sharing those things. Um, I'm curious, I mean, you've been doing work with special education for such a long time. Did you get into that because of your sister, or just because you were inspired to do it? How did you even get involved in working with special education kids in the first place?
Yes, my sister definitely was a huge inspiration. I'm a curious person, and when I found out that my sister had Down syndrome, I was like, I had a ton of questions, and my mom was answering most of them. And then she was like, all right, you have to go look it up. And I legit would go look it up. I'm like, what's going on with the chromosomes? What's going on during the fertilization? Just all of it. I wanted to know more. And then when she was born and growing and, going to school, I'm like, well, how do we help her? And it's not like all disabilities. It doesn't look exactly the same for every child. And so really figuring out, well, she's really good. Like, my sister has really high social emotional intelligence. She can tell when you're sad. She can tell when you're happy, and will feed off of that. She's got some other challenges. And so it's like, well, how can we build on those strengths, and how can we work with the challenges? So I remember attending IEP meetings. Like, I'd be on the phone, conferenced in, like, what are we doing with her language? What are we doing with her occupational therapy? Like, advocating for my sister. So she was a huge inspiration for joining the field of special education. And I felt like I just kind of gravitated towards the different learners. I mean, we're all different learners. Everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses, but I just felt like the students who the teachers would be like, I don't know what to do with them. I'd be like, come sit with me. Like, we're gonna talk it out, we're gonna work it out, and then we'll get back to whatever the lesson is. So yeah, it just kind of came full circle. I started working with children when I was a child. My first job was actually at Columbia University Teachers College. I did a summer camp there. I was a camp counselor, and it just was tons of fun. I was like, education doesn't have to be boring and stiff and stagnant. It really can be fun. It can be geared towards the child. And I've had a great opportunity to work in a variety of school settings where you can see what works, what doesn't work, where you can say, okay, well, you take this practice in this new environment. And so it's crazy. Like, this is actually, I'm starting my 20th year in education. Like, this is my 20th school year that I'm about to start. And it's just wild to think, like, 20 years is like, it feels like it's gone by in a snap. Like, I remember being at show, going to show dances, like, it feels like yesterday. And to think, like, man, it's been 20 years, like, plus. So it's just wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, yeah. Time flies. But you've been putting in that work. You've been putting in the dedication towards helping others. And, Be More Today show really appreciates that. And we love bringing on our tagline is simple. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And you're doing extraordinary things in your neck of the vineyard. So I asked everyone on the show what Be More Today means to them. We are now 100 plus episodes into this journey. So LeShone HoSang, when you hear the phrase "be more today," what does that phrase mean to you?
Oh, wow. Well, one, I think the phrase says it all, be more today. In Kundalini Yoga, one of the mantras that we have is when the pressure is on, start, and the pressure will be off. I think sometimes it feels so gargantuan. It feels just like, how do I even get started? And start with the dream, start with the vision, right? Like, you have to see it sometimes in your mind, in your mind's eye, before you see it in reality. So starting with that vision, planning, preparing, and then you have to take action. Like, it can't just stay in your head. It can't just stay on the page in the book. You have to start. So, I think it's about being curious and dreaming big, and then planning and doing it scared. Like, this conference, in retrospect, now that it's over, feels like such an accomplishment, but it was really scary just to apply to it, just to go, to fly. This is my first time going to Asia, to fly across the world and do that. And I'm like, I'm scared. And every Friday I would sit down and plan my presentation. And I'm like, I don't know how they're going to receive it. But it's like, you have to just do it scared. And I know I'm putting in the planning, I'm putting in the love, like, I'm putting in my 100%. And you just got to do it. Like, you have to start, take action. And that's how you be more today.
I love it. I love it. And I'm so happy that you decided to go out there and apply, and you applied yourself and you were rewarded for it. And now the question is, what's next? What's the next thing you have on the docket you're thinking about? What's the next journey you want to do, the next dream you have for either the rest of this year or for the future?
Wow. So many dreams and visions. Well, I would love to continue traveling internationally as a yogi, as a special educator. I would love to continue merging those practices. I don't really have a clear, specific vision of how that looks, but I'd love to continue these passions on an international scale. So yeah, this is just the beginning.
I love it. That's very, very exciting. It's very, very exciting. I appreciate you being on the show today. Listen, how can people learn more about you and your workouts? How can they join? Where can they find you?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us all about it.
So you can find me on Instagram at LeShone Jai, LeShone Jai. I'm also on YouTube, where I offer some of my Jai Yoga Kundalini clips. So they're just short practices, a little yoga, a little meditation to stretch your body and stretch your mind. So there are a few of those clips on there. I have longer classes on there under Sava Sanctuary. So, we outside. And then for those in the DC area or not, you can check out Lighthouse Yoga Center for my Jai Yoga Sunday session on Sundays at 11. But that's also on my Instagram. So yeah, I would say go to Instagram. That's the best place. LeShone Jai. So
Awesome. LeShone, thank you so much for being a guest on the Be More Today show. You've made this episode one for the books, and I'm excited for all to come, and I'm going to have to join your classes. I'm going to try to join on Sunday and be in that number. I'm going to surprise you. You're going to be like, what's happening? But I'm going to hop in there one day and be a part of the big picture. So thank you so much for sharing all you've done, and I wish you the best in the future.
Oh, thank you. Well, I look forward to seeing you on the mat. Come on by. It's funny. I've actually had teacher friends of mine. I've had parents of students that I've taught in my yoga class. Even people that I met at this conference in July have come to the yoga class. So, come join the Jai Yoga Global Yoga fam. We welcome you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
No problem. And folks, listen, we talked about so many things today. She shared so many tidbits about how to be better. Like you said in the quote, perfection isn't the goal, consistency is. Being consistent is key. So if you are not into the yoga thing, get into it. The connection that she shared is incredible. I mean, the emotional connection is something that I want to be a part of. I don't know about you. And I think that we all can take a little bit of what she said today to heart in terms of making our bodies better, treating our bodies better, connecting with our inner warriors better, right? And making sure that we go out there and not just try to be perfect for one day, but just consistently putting in the work, putting in the effort, putting in the time to make sure that we are balanced body, mind, and soul. So we thank her for being on the show. And for all you who are listening out there, continue to follow us, follow her as well for her social media platform, and continue to be a part of the Be More Today journey. You guys already know BeMoreToday.com for my book on Amazon and on our Be More Today page and our more merch store, and everything that you need for Be More Today is on your favorite podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, and all the others. And folks, any questions you want to share with me or with LeShone Jai, email me directly at drshawn@BeMoreToday.com or send me a message on all of our social media platforms, Be More Today PT, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. As I always say, have a good day, have a good night, have a great life, and continue to take your steps to greatness to be the best version of you. We'll see you next time. Peace.